What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online show. Zach Abolverdi and Nick Torre here, and we've got a spring game to recap and a transfer portal to get into. We've already kind of turned the page on spring camp as the Gators have wrapped up and now turned their attention to the portal. Already some action this week, and we will get into all of that on this week's episode. And also, Todd Golden, his staff, getting busy in the portal, landing 2 transfers, including another one here on this fine Thursday, and also a commit for the 2025 class as well. So a lot of recruiting to talk about, Nick, but we're going to kick this thing off with the spring game. How are you doing?
Doing well, getting a little bit of time to breathe after the last month, but honestly,
you didn't have too much time. No. You had like a day, and then the portal opened.
Yeah. Baseball's back Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Always a great Vanderbilt series. Got my mother-in-law and sister-in-law in town, so we're still moving.
Keep it moving, man. Keep it moving. There's no shortage of things here to talk about in Gainesville, Florida. And obviously we got a lot to talk about from Saturday's game. We saw some things. We saw some players for the first time. Maybe some concerns as well. Probably one too many field goals attempted in that spring game to Billy's liking and the fans' liking. But you got to see some touchdown passes from DJ Lagway, which is, I think, what everybody wanted, Nick.
Yeah, I think I said, you can script a spring game better than the WWE scripts WrestleMania. Like, you can make it whatever you want to make it. I think Lane Kiffin was playing flag football. We've seen, I think, Will Muschamp one year due to injuries, or McElwain due to injuries one year, just do like a regular practice. Invite the fans out. Like, we've seen everything. So
that was tough, by the way.
Yeah, it was tough.
That was the year to stay home.
Yeah, I wish we could have.
They showed up on Saturday, though.
Yes. So it to me, it would have been a missed opportunity if you didn't showcase DJ Lagway a little bit. And listen, we keep saying it over and over. And it probably sounds like Florida messaging, Zach, but like, I think both of us believe it. Like, this is Graham Mertz's football team. Graham Mertz is the starting quarterback. DJ Lagway is not going to be the starter, but there's no sense in redshirting DJ Lagway. If he is what we think he's going to be, he won't be at Florida for 4 years. He won't be in college for 4 years.
No.
And if he isn't what we think he's going to be, then he'll probably transfer. Like, if DJ is what we think he's going to be, you're going to get 3 years out of him. There's no sense in redshirting him this year.
Sure.
So then it's on Russ Callaway, Ryan O'Hara, and Billy Napier to get DJ up to speed and to get him ready to contribute in some form or fashion. Yeah. I think what they did Saturday was, first play, if the offensive line could block, they had a long pass dialed up. Now DJ has to scramble for his life and throw it on the run. But right away you saw, okay, they're gonna show off DJ Lagway a little bit. He had an unbelievable pass. I think everyone's talking about the pass to Aiden Mizell. That was the touchdown. I thought the pass from the far hash to Taylor Spirito towards the sideline,
throw of the day. Hell yeah.
Towards the west side. I thought that's an NFL throw. That's a Sunday throw from an 18-year-old kid. So there's a lot to be excited about DJ Lagway. I keep going back to, I think it's just as important for Florida that they got Graham Mertz back, and also that Graham Mertz isn't worried about losing his starting job. Because if you're worried about losing your starting job, you might tell the guy who's trying to get it to kick rocks and not help him grow and develop. And I think you're getting that from Mertz. I think you're getting that mentorship, that big brother kind of leadership from Mertz to Lagway, which I think, one, helps you this year getting Mertz back, but then helps you in the future with DJ Lagway running the program in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, and Lagway, of course, was not the only freshman that showed up last Saturday. I think everybody expected him to obviously have a lot of eyes on him and for him to produce, which he did. But some other guys stood out as well. And I think LJ McCray was another guy I think fans came into the game wanting to see and knew they would. Maybe didn't know that he would be playing as many snaps with the starters as he did. But he made some key plays on third down that forced 2 punts in the fourth quarter, including one where, I mean, he batted the ball down at the line of scrimmage, and it wasn't luck. I mean, he read it, timed it perfectly, and it was not a true freshman play. So he showed up already, and it's really no surprise if you have listened to the coaches and players this spring. They've raved about him. Maybe a guy that I think fans didn't expect Nick to see as much from was Jaden Baugh. Like, if you followed our practice reports and our scrimmage intel, you knew he had a big day in the second scrimmage. He scored 3 touchdowns. But still, like, to actually see it there in that orange and blue game setting, he was there. There's a lot of – I mean, what did you write in your thoughts, Nick, about the fan club?
Yeah, tickets to the fan club are on sale currently. Yeah, get on now, and get a seat. It's like Southwest, first come, first serve with the seats. You don't want to get stuck in a middle seat in row 47 for the Jaden Baugh Express. Yeah,
he really, I think, reminded fans why Nick Saban, as you mentioned to Billy in the press conference after the game, Nick, why Nick Saban was so hard on his trail and was one of the reasons why he backed off that pledge to Arkansas. Now, obviously, Florida was the other one, but he took official visits to both Florida and Alabama in December, and Alabama got the second visit too. So Florida had to sweat it out for a week and worry about him going to Tuscaloosa. And when they got him on signing day, that was a big deal for them. And I think you saw why on Saturday.
And there was a thought, rumors, murmurs. I was talking to Keith Niebuhr about this, that Jaden Baugh silently committed to Alabama on that visit. So not only were you sweating it out, you were, behind the scenes trying to flip Jaden Baugh. And I think there's something
again
said. Yeah. flip him again. That pancake's burnt. We got to flip him too many times. I think there's something to be said for the evaluations that this staff has. I think they're on some guys a little bit earlier than other schools at this level. I remember saying that kind of about Jim McElwain, Drew Hughes, and that staff. They would kind of like offer a kid, and you'd be like, his offers are North Texas, TCU, and Washington State. What the hell? And then all of a sudden it would be Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State. And you're like, oh, okay. Jim McElwain's staff was kind of like the early recruiter, the area recruiters for a bunch of other people. But I think they've done a really good job, this staff, of evaluating specifically at that running back position, because I think Katie Daniels is going to be a great player as well. The big thing, I saw some people saying he might be RB2. I think you said he could challenge for RB2. I don't see a lot of pass protection from the running backs, and I give the freshman a pass. Like, it takes some time to do this, to learn how to do this, and now you're learning how to do it, blocking guys like LJ McCray, blocking grown men like Tyreek Sapp, and Justice Boone coming off the edge. KD Daniels played receiver, quarterback, running back, never asked to block. Like, it's going to take a while for him just to learn, who am I supposed to be picking up? What's my responsibility? And then what is the proper technique, footwork, hand placement to not get blown up and end up on somebody's highlight reel.
And, another interesting thing about Baugh, Nick, is he was actually initially evaluated by Florida staff as a linebacker.
Yeah.
Because he played both sides in
yep.
high school, and his dad was a linebacker at his high school, and played against Billy in high school when he was a quarterback, which is a crazy backstory. But then they got to the school, and this was, I guess, in January of his junior year going into his senior season where they started to really evaluate him and realize that he wanted to play running back. And now we get to the eval that we are here today, that he's in contention, which with a really deep running back room, Nick. I mean, it does. I mean, it hurt to lose Trevor Etienne.
Let me
There's
take
no way
you
about
back.
him.
Let me take you back. Negative Nick said back in December or January, whenever it happened, that Trevor Etienne leaving would be worse for the perception than the production. Thank you, Jaden Ball. I feel like you're making that take, really, really hammering that take home for me.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that they've recruited that position and their evals at that spot, I think that they're going to be fine, just fine at running back. We gave our rapid reaction after the game and hit on a lot of points. We've now had a few days to, kind of look at this game from afar. Nick, as we kind of put a bow on the orange and blue game for 2024, what is kind of your main takeaway from what we saw last Saturday? Good or bad, positive or negative, Nick?
Yeah, I come away from it more positive. I still have the same questions I went into the game and went into spring about the offensive line. I still have. I gained some questions. I mean, I guess I still feel okay about the defensive line. I think you have a bunch of depth there. I really think the secondary is night and day different. I like the running back room. I love the quarterback room with the two guys they have. And then I think you need a receiver. I think you have to find a portal receiver. I think Florida's receivers for a while, outside of, a couple guys, have struggled to get separation. And I think you still see that. And I'm kind of just like every wide receiver that goes into the portal, like I'm pulling up their highlights and trying to see what they look like. I think Florida needs to get a guy that can come in and compete right away with Khalil Jackson and Shamiri DK. I get everyone's super excited about Marcus Burke, but like, this is a player that's like almost been kicked off the team a couple of times. It's never been about his ability. It's been about doing everything you're supposed to do. So I'm in a wait and see it mode with Marcus Burke. Like, does he have the ability to play at the SEC level? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think he's a freak athlete, but you can't play if the coaches don't trust you to be at meetings on time, to be at practice on time, to be taking care of all the things you need to take care of as a student athlete. So I think that's
to his credit, I think he's turned a corner there. It sounds like Billy gave him a lot of props after the game, but does what we saw and heard about him this offseason in the spring translate into the fall and actually lead to production? And, oh, wow, they really do trust him and are counting on him on third down and throwing him the ball. Like, that's that next step. And you don't know until you see it, right? And I think Shamir DK in the slot, like, he's going to be one of Graham's go-to guys. We didn't see much of it yet, but I think more on that outside there to kind of compete with Khalil, give them more than just Burke and Jaquavion Frazier's. Like, they need some more weapons there. And that's, I think they feel probably good about their top three guys, but that's, you can't go through the season with three receivers that are threats. You need more than that. And, they'll be able to have some freshmen and some of the younger guys, hopefully for them, make some impact and show up and make some plays. But can they do it on a consistent basis? I don't know that that's something that you can count on yet with those guys. So we'll get into the transfer portal a little bit more. Defensively, where do you feel like this unit is at, Nick, coming out of spring camp and more specifically what we saw in the spring game from them?
Yeah, defensively, I like it. I think TJ Searcy's going to have a great year.
And he looked great.
When you look at that position, I mean, you've got him and Justice Boone, LJ McCray, Tyreek Sapp. Like, you're deep there. And then you look at outside, Jason Marshall has a lot to prove, has a chip on his shoulder heading into his senior year. Devin Moore, the best ability is availability. I don't know if you can hear that. Yeah, there you go. Keep him I've always said, and I've always thought that Devin Moore has all SEC cornerback potential. He's just only been available for 50% of the games that he's been on campus for. If you can get Devin Moore healthy 12 times, your secondary is already better. And that's even before you start mentioning DJ Douglas, Jakeem Jackson, Aaron Gates,
Bridges,
Triquez Bridges, Sharif Denson. Like, the other thing too, Sharif Denson is not a bad football player, but you wouldn't have known it if you only watched him trying to cover Eugene Wilson. And I think that's just more a credit to how nasty Eugene Wilson is than anything Sharif Denson's doing. He comes away with a pick later in the game after getting torched by Eugene Wilson a couple times in practice. I think Eugene could have a special type of season.
He's going to torch a lot of people.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm watching him, like, man, Sharif Denson's having a tough day. And then he covers somebody not wearing number 3, and you're like, oh, he's very capable. Very capable.
Yeah.
So I like Florida's defense. I think linebacker will be interesting. Shamar James, obviously a starter. Does Pup Howard take that second spot, that second starting spot? You've got some older guys like Derek Wingo. Manny Nunnery just hit the transfer portal. Had some things to say on his way out. But then I also really like Miles Graham, and I was super bummed out about his back surgery. It makes sense why they did it now. Like, hey, you had this injury. Was talking to a reporter who said he knew about the injury during his high school season, knew about it when he was still playing at the Under Armour game. So I think the process there and the thought process there was, let's see if you can go and if you can play, and if you can get through spring, that'll be awesome. And after a couple of practices, it was just like, listen, let's take care of this thing now. Get surgery now. You can still sit in all the meetings, watch the practices, sit right there next to Ron Roberts and watch how the linebackers work throughout a practice, and we'll get you back fully healthy for fall, rather than let's get this surgery done in the middle of April, and then maybe you're 85% when fall camp starts, and then you re-aggravate it, and now we're wasting a year. I like the thought process to get the surgery done as soon as possible, go through the rehab, and then come back. But he's a guy. Miles Graham is a guy that I don't know that you will be able to keep him off the field in some capacity. Definitely a guy that can play on special teams, if not getting reps and snaps at linebacker. But I do like Pup Howard to jump in there and try to win that starting job. Listen, you're going to have to win it over Derek Wingo. Derek Wingo probably has to get surgery. I don't know. It's the off season, so it seems like Derek Wingo might need some sort of surgery. He might have like that punch card, 10th surgery free. But just getting Derek Wingo in that room to help with the younger guys, I think, is a great thing for that room as well.
And of course, no surprise to Nick Jeremy Crawshaw holding it down at the punter spot.
Naturally.
Not much to say there. Nor Trey Smack, 4 for 4. Probably, again, to circle back on where we started, but one too many kicks, obviously, from him in that unit in the starting offense. But second year in a row that he's won the spring game on a game-winning kick. So you created some theatrics, Nick, as scripted, probably.
Yeah, playing with the clock a little bit there.
Yeah. So,
add some time back to make sure you can get the kickoff.
That's right. So that kind of puts a bow on spring ball. We will continue to have some fallout coverage, not just from that game, but
real quick, this keeps coming up. Listen, yes, one of the plays they had 10 guys on the field. This is time to practice. If you have to practice what you're going to do during the year, which is obviously a joke. Yeah, listen, it's a bad look for a team that struggled to do it. Going back and looking at it, it does seem like it happens to a lot of teams. It just kind of happened to Florida in some pretty noticeable spots. And yeah, it's unacceptable.
And
just beating a dead horse at this point. But
Yeah,
like, I just don't know the way to address it at
and
all
it's
yet.
getting to the point, Nick. I gotta say, like and then we can move on because we need to move on from this. But like it is getting to the point where, especially with the addition of Joe Houston, which now you just have another voice, you have more expertise. Um, if it continues to happen, then it really boils down to the operation and how it's set up with the limitations from them being analysts.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Like, and it's hard to, don't say it's hard. You can't put 100% blame on Chris Couch or Joe Houston when they are not in 100% in control of the special teams unit or can coach with 100% of their ability on game day, because they can't. They're not allowed to communicate. They're not allowed. I mean, they do talk to the specialists, they do talk to coaches, but they also have to be reserved in their role. And you see it. Like there are definitely times where they're just off to the side and not coaching like a regular unit coach or position coach does. So I don't know, though, changing the setup of the staff, making its special teams coordinator one of the 10 full-time assistants and giving him more leeway with the players on game day and in that role and in that moment when you got to send 11 on the field, if that's going to eliminate that problem. But I think it's certainly fair to say that the way that it's set up now is contributing to that problem. It might be the root of that problem, which is why they made another hire there to help out Chris. So it's not just all on him to communicate these calls and these assignments to, what do they say? They have 6 units. And with all the backups, that's 106 special teams units. So it's 132 players. Yeah. I mean, you can't have, it's one thing to have a special teams coordinator in charge of all those players. It's another thing to have one that's an analyst that can't communicate with them fully. So again, if it continues to happen, it's more of an indictment of the way that Florida has set that up. But this is not unique to Billy Napier, and UF is literally how Georgia sets up their staff. So again, we're beating a dead horse, as Nick said, but I did want to bring that up because we got educated on that this spring and kind of got to hear from there's 2 sides to every story, as they say, Nick.
Well, there's probably 3 sides: yours, mine, and the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something in there. Listen, you've got to figure out the operations, and that's what Joe Houston was brought in to do. Now, in a spring game setting, you're splitting Joe Houston and Chris Couch onto different teams. So
that's true. That's true.
When the season starts, they'll be on the same team.
That's right.
But listen, like there's no more excuses. We've been told that Joe Houston's going to help the operation. Cool. We will take you at your word for it until you prove otherwise. So it's a spring game. You're going to work out the kinks. It's essentially a glorified practice, and you've split your operation into 2. So if it happens August 31st, I'll be singing a different tune.
That's right. All right, we're gonna start talking portal. We'll talk football portal, obviously, and then we'll end with some basketball talk. And again, a shout out to Portal God Todd and his staff for staying busy, not just on the portal, but on the recruiting trail as well this week. But before we do that, want to give a shout out to myperfectfranchise.net. If you are ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream, looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy, Andy can help. He's a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can learn more and contact Andy anytime at myperfectfranchise.net or calling or texting him at 404-973-9901. And as we close the chapter on or close the page, should we say, on one chapter, another one starts, and we're already into portal season. officially opened on Tuesday, and we've already got some movement in the portal in terms of outgoing transfers and incoming transfers. But Nick already alluded to it. We've talked about it in previous shows. We wrote about it at Gators Online this week. And I want to say on that note that if you want to stay on top of all of our portal coverage, all of our recruiting content, all of our basketball coverage, baseball coverage, and of course, football coverage, and you are not subscribed to GatorsOnline.com, when you go to sign up, you can use the UF code, or the code, UF1, code UF1, and you get 2 months of access for just $1. So stay on top of all of the portal action, and there is going to be some of it, and we expect more movement on that front in the coming days. But Nick, we already kind of highlighted where Florida stands from a scholarship standpoint, which that has already moved. And we also identified some needs, which we've talked about on this show. But let's go through them again. And maybe is there one that maybe is the least important of the three, and then maybe the one that's the most important, which I think you've already touched on?
Yeah, I don't even know. I probably have 1A, 1B for most important. Least important would be probably the one that they already addressed. Getting a walk on. It would be tight end. Like I think Arliss Boardingham and Hayden Hansen are very serviceable. Arliss, I think, continues to come along as a blocker. And obviously
I think it's more of a depth thing. Like I think they might be expecting maybe Zipper to move on. Maybe they expect another guy at that spot, and that might be the need for the
sure.
As opposed to maybe not feeling as confident with those guys. Like, I think they're good with their top two. It's just like, yeah, we're deep right now, but we'll be deep after you have graduation this spring.
Right. So you have a top two with Boardingham, Hansen. Like Tony Livingston appears to still just be kind of a project player at that spot.
Yeah. Which Billy said he would be.
Yeah. You get like what I
Gavin Hill.
Keon Zipper had surgery over a year ago, and still hasn't been able to participate in practice. So, did he ask to not participate because he doesn't want to get rehurt because he wants to graduate transfer? Is that something that he would have told the coaching staff? Maybe. It's just hard for me to put him into the mix when I don't see him coming back from the injury and don't see him practicing. And then Gavin Hill, when you get moved from defensive line to tight end, I don't have a lot of enthusiasm about your future in terms of being a very productive player. I think the last one that did it was Dante Zanders. Started a bunch, but wasn't a huge impact player for Florida's offense. And then I guess Caleb Rios will be the one, the Air Force tight end, who I'm interested to see how they use him. I pulled up my story because I thought these numbers were funny. He, in high school, very productive. His senior year at 57 catches for 766 yards, 12 touchdowns in the state of Colorado. Then he goes to Air Force, who runs the wing T. The last 2 seasons, he only had 3 catches for 70 yards and 1 touchdown with with Air Force. But Air Force, during that span, threw 192 passes and ran the ball 1,521 times.
Good Lord.
So that is a run-pass ratio of 1,521 to 192. You're a blocker. Do you bring Rios in just for depth? Because like you said, Zach, hey, we need depth. We don't know.
I mean, he must be a good blocker. I'll tell you that.
Certainly. But you have to, and it's tough. And I don't like, for a guy who's been in college since 2023, this will be his 4th year in college, I don't like going off high school stats, but it's not like this isn't a 6th offensive lineman.
Yes. He's got ability.
He has shown ability.
And he'll probably, I mean, he could surpass his career stats there in 1 game at Florida if he gets the opportunity. I mean, they throw the ball to the tight end in this offense. So that's already one move. And, Nick mentioned the departure. Now, wide receiver, there's already some options out there potentially for Florida, Nick, and you've wrote about a couple of them. And what do you think about the prospects there so far, and some of the guys that they appear to either make contact with or zero in on?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at it, it's the three positions. Like, there's a couple defensive tackles in the portal that are intriguing, but like it's not really a position Florida needs. There's a couple of linebackers, not a position Florida needs. We didn't even mention that they're adding Aaron Childs into the mix, and then Amir Jackson at tight end is coming into the mix. Another guy who super athletic. I think he's got a 49-foot wingspan, just unbelievably long arms.
Yeah,
a great target. Going to need to learn how to block a little bit. So like when you're looking at what Florida needs, I think cornerback's fine. I think star, nickel, safety, linebacker is fine. It's all on the offense, which is funny to say because of how bad the defense was. But you really addressed your needs in the last portal cycle. And I think they did land some quality players. I think Florida has a massive need at receiver and at offensive line. One of the receivers that had told Pete Nakos that Florida had been in contact with is Justice Ross Simmons, who's from Colorado State. He is an update as of today, though. He is from California, and he plans to visit USC. He's been in contact with Washington, USC, Michigan State, Liberty, Cincinnati, South Carolina. Still considering a visit to Florida, as he told Keith Niebuhr. But I would look for maybe him to go back out west, being a guy from, I think, Inglewood originally. So
he does have the connection with Clay Millen, but don't know how much.
Does have the connection with Clay Millen. And then another guy that I think would be intriguing. It seems to be playing slow, and I'm trying to like piece things together as to why it would be slow. And I think maybe I found one reason. That would be with Jason Zandamela. He is originally from, I believe, from out of the country, and then moved to Clearwater and stayed like with a host family, I think. And stayed with a host family. I think he was down to Florida State and USC during his recruitment, and now is back in the portal, leaving USC. Said he wants to come closer to home. You would think, hey, he already has that relationship with Mike Norvell. Florida, I think, is interested here. But why could it be moving slow? Florida State can't contact anybody in the transfer portal this week due to NCAA violations. And maybe it's a slow play because the kid knows where he wants to go and is just waiting to hear from Florida State. But that's a younger, when I've identified what I think Florida needs to do on the offensive line, it's getting an older player, maybe a 5th-year, 6th-year guy ready to come in and start, play right away, or contend for that right guard spot, which I think right now, in my opinion, is between Damian George and Bryce Lovett. Looking for a guy to come in and play right away there. So the portal's kind of been slower than we expected. Talking to one source, they said, we don't think a coach said that they don't anticipate there being a ton of really quality players in this portal period. And that means you kind of have to pick and choose your spots, where to go all in. And it'll be interesting. But I do think Florida is still buyers. They're still at 85 scholarships. So you need to
that's important to note. Yeah. I mean,
you need to do some shaking before you can do some moving.
Yeah. Like they really don't have a lot of room. And I think that they expect maybe at least 1 or 2 more departures, maybe some guys waiting on the spring semester to finish so they can graduate. I anticipate that that's some of what's happening here, but like regardless, there's outside of receiver, I mean, there's not a lot of pressing needs. I just think if you can upgrade the interior of the offensive line with somebody that shows up, you go for it. But like, I don't think you take a guy there just to take a guy there. I feel like they have enough depth. It's just are they going to be good with their starting 5, and are they going to be good with their backups at guard? that's something that I still think is to be determined. So that's one spot. And again, I think with the wide receiver room, you're just trying to give yourself more weapons and more depth and more competition at that spot, and maybe not having to lean on some guys that haven't proven it yet and haven't produced yet in college. But again, as Nick said, they are at 85 scholarships right now. So they don't have a lot of room to work with. If you are going to improve your team and address weaknesses and get better at spots, you better do it in the first portal period. You better do it in the winter, in December and January, because like that's when the best players are available. That's when the most players are available. That's when you can do SEC to SEC transfers. You got to get really fortunate to have a Ricky Pearsall fall into your lap like they did in the spring portal period that first off season. So I don't know if Ricky Pearsall's out there, Nick. And if he is, I don't know if Florida is necessarily the ideal landing spot for a receiver of that caliber like it was back then in that offseason. Like they had a lot to sell to Ricky. Like right now, to be honest, you're selling the third wide receiver spot. Maybe. Like you got to compete with. Like you're going to have to beat out Khalil Jackson, because I don't think Shamir DK is not starting, and Eugene Wilson III is definitely not starting, or definitely not starting. Like it's like Ricky, they were selling him on coming in and being wide receiver 1, from Arizona State. Like you can't really sell that, and so the pitch is a little bit harder, and which is why
I do think. Especially, I think the pitch could be you can make a great pitch though if it's a guy who only has 1 year. Like I'm forgetting the guy's name. I'll look it up real quick. From Penn State, who told Pete Nakos that
he's going to visit Auburn this weekend.
Keandre Lambert-Smith, visiting Auburn,
and then Texas A&M.
Yeah, so he said he wants to play for a contender, that he wants to go to a place where he can be featured with a veteran quarterback. Florida can feature you. Florida has a veteran quarterback. And then when you go to Auburn and Texas A&M, it feels like you want to contend for a great NIL situation, less than contend for a college football playoff appearance. So maybe maybe we got lost in translation on what we wanted to contend for. I wanted to contend for a new lease on a luxury car, more so than a college football playoff trophy. But I think Florida's quarterback situation is really enticing to a receiver or to a tight end, because if you only have a year, hey, I've got a 6-year guy, 23, will be 24 years old in December, quarterback, who showed last year that he can feed the ball to somebody. Ricky Pearsall had over 60 catches. Eugene Wilson had over 60 catches, even though 25 of them are those little shovel passes, which I think should be runs, not catches. It's a different argument for a different day. But even if you, let's say you're a sophomore receiver, hey, I'm going to a spot where I've got a veteran quarterback, and then I've got some dude who won every single high school quarterback award there is to win, who has a rocket for an arm, and the future looks bright at the quarterback position. So it's not even like, well, I'm a sophomore, and I might have a good quarterback here, but what's coming down the pipeline? What's after that? So if I'm a receiver and I care more about NIL or more about competing for a championship this year, I look at Florida's quarterback room and I think that's a really good situation for me. So I think that's something Florida can sell to receivers in the portal.
And we will see how that plays out. They are making contact. They are trying to land some guys. But we'll need to have some more movement on the outgoing transfer front to be able to land some guys. So we will continue to monitor it at GatorsOnline.com. Make sure you guys are following all of our portal coverage and take advantage of that code UF1 to get 2 months of access for just $1 if you're not subscribed at Gators Online. I want to give a shout out to Prairie Dental Center before we get to our next topic. And the doctor is a UF grad who's practiced in Gainesville for 3 decades and developed a deep understanding of how to diagnose and treat various dental problems, along with advanced skills and knowledge to provide better care to his patients. If you're having dental concerns or just need a cleaning, Prairie Dental Center offers a wide range of options to meet your needs. Give their office a call at 352-373-3431. Tell them Gators Online sent you, and your new patient exam will be free. And we already alluded to it, but this deserves its own segment because it created quite the stir on social media on multiple fronts. So Manny Nunnery, after making an interception in the spring game and deciding to come back to Florida after entering the portal in January, has decided to enter the portal again. And this time it's clear that he's gone for good based on his parting shot. But when you look at how Florida's linebacker room has kind of played out this spring, if you look at just the way things were divvied up in the spring game and who he picked off DJ Lagway, which means he was with the second team defense, so to speak, and was kind of in that role throughout the spring. I think it's clear Shamar James is one of those starters. Derek Wingo's in the mix for the other spot, but then you've got Pup Howard, who got the start with the starters at inside linebacker on Saturday, and the guy that started next to him was R.J. Moten, who plays the will, and he was filling in for Shamar James. So right now, just based off how it looks in the spring game, your starters at linebacker were already James and Pup Howard. And I think maybe Nunnery saw the writing on the wall, saw where things were trending, and decides to hit the portal. But he didn't just go quietly, Nick. I'm not going to get into a since deleted message that he posted on social media, but I will get into what he discussed, which was basically throwing Austin Armstrong under the bus for the 4th, and he called it 16, but it was the 4th and 17 call against Missouri. The infamous play that cost Florida a chance to upset the number 9 team in the country led to a game-winning field goal for Mizzou on a 4th and 17 that they could not get the stop on. Now, this post from Nunnery and his decision to enter the portal sparked some additional conversation on social media, to which somebody, the account Sideline Florida Gators, posted the play of the 4th and 17 and asked X users to watch Manny Nunnery on the play and ask them, does he look out of position? To which none other than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson chimed in on Twitter and
missed this.
What's that?
I missed this, but listen, I know that Chauncey would never miss an opportunity to give you a piece of his mind. So Zach, I'm tuned in.
Oh yeah,
I can't believe I missed it.
Yeah, you missed this. Chauncey Gardner, unwillingly, I think, but comes to the defense of Austin Armstrong, says that this is a routine play call and a good play call, and basically puts it on Manny Nunnery. And he quote tweeted the play, and this was his verbiage, but 3-man speedo dig versus cover 3, easy. And Chauncey says when the linebacker saw the first crosser go, he should have kept looking for that dig. He peeked for it, but he didn't let his eyes take him to his drop. And the ball was able to sail over Nunnery's head. And he even looped Alex Anzalone into this. I guess Anzalone said that was questioning whether Nunnery did peek, and to which Chauncey Gardner posted the screenshot of him of doing it and getting out of position. So a very entertaining exchange there, that courtesy of Manny Nunnery and his decision to hit the portal, revisiting some some old wounds there for Florida fans, Nick.
It goes to show, like, everyone, maybe even some of us, and until after the game, I watched a replay and I'm like, oh man, Manny Nunnery was just like in no man's land. Like, he's covering under routes, or in a position to cover an under route on a 4th and 17. It's like, let them have that under. Let them throw a 7-yard pass on 4th and 17. No problem, buddy. Go make a tackle in space. But I remember so much hate being thrown Austin Armstrong's way, and it's interesting to see current NFL players, former Gators, being like, yo, it's a super common coverage in that spot, and it just was not executed. And we're quick to throw,
but look, Alex Anzalone and Chauncey Gardner have a disagreement of opinion, and these are two NFL players on the same team. So they are
not anymore. Chauncey left left the Lions, but they were on the same team last year.
We're on the same team. Okay, so I mean, these are two obviously former teammates as well, clearly well versed in defensive coverages and responsibilities and assignments, and they are having a public disagreement about this on Twitter. Anzalone saying the nickel could have rerouted, the corner could have squeezed it harder, the linebacker could have gotten more depth, but he thinks that they put Nunnery in a bad spot. But Chauncey disagrees. Clearly, Nunnery is of the opinion of maybe Anzalone, but nonetheless, this is still something that was clearly bothering him. It's not something that Florida fans have forgotten, and maybe it's just best for all parties involved to move on. I think Florida will be fine at linebacker as well.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for that. I do want to give a shout out and kind of talk about the latest from Todd Golden and his staff, landing 3 commitments this past week, and 2 of them from the transfer portal and 1 of them from the high school ranks. The latest addition for the Gators came on Thursday. Former Washington State center Ruben Chinyelo, probably butchered that last name, but Chinyelo. There we go. Look at Nick coming through for us.
I watched one of his highlight tapes, and that's how
there we go. There we go. So this guy set the school record last year for freshman blocks with 45 blocks. This guy has a 7'8" wingspan. So he is him
and Amir Jackson.
Yeah, man. Like, this dude is going to be a force. Florida obviously wants to get better defensively. So being able to add him, as well as adding Sam Alexis, their other transfer that they added from Chattanooga this past weekend. This is huge for Florida. Being able to get 2 guys, one at the power forward spot, one at the center spot. They feel like Sam Alexis is going to be able to come in and step right in, fill the role that Tyree Samuel left void at that power forward spot, and potentially, Nick, they think maybe could even be more of a scoring threat than Tyree Samuel was. He was a 10-10 guy last year in terms of rebounds and points on his averages. So they think that they're going to get some double-doubles out of him, which is what Tyree Samuel provided a lot of as well. So now really left for the Gators is to get a point guard. They moved on from one of their targets that wasn't going to be able to get into Florida and is since committed elsewhere. But they also added a recruit for the 2025 class, Alex Lloyd, an in-state prospect from your neck of the woods, Westminster Academy.
Shout out to Neil Blackman. I believe that is Neil Blackman's high school alum, or he is an alumni of Westminster. Down a little south of my neck of the woods. I think they're like Miami area. But yes, shout out to the Tri-Counties down there.
That's right. So that was a nice get for the Gators. This is a top 100 prospect, top 50 really, just outside at number 51 overall. the number 13 small forward in the 2025 class, and a great get for Todd Golden and his staff to kind of kick things off for that cycle. So a really productive week on the recruiting front. Golden had in another transfer visitor as well from FAU. So he and his staff are staying busy. They've already gotten 2 pledges and addressed their needs in the front court. And man, to think about these 2 guys that they just added, along with Alex Condon and Thomas Howe and a healthy Micah Hanlogden, like, all right, Florida's going to be better defensively, and I think going to have a lot of guys that they can throw at teams and be really tough to score on. So
saw Micah Handglotten walking at a baseball game, was there with Walter Clayton. And then also we had the news, Zach, Walter Clayton and Will Richard going to go to the NBA draft while maintaining eligibility. I thought the wording of their announcements, both being like, and if I do return to college, it will be at the University of Florida, seemed like they were, in lockstep with each other in terms of let's go go work out, get our feedback. I think Walter Clayton, like if he gets a second round grade, like I think he'll probably be the same player this time next year, just a year older that he will be, right now, and that he would probably, head out. But if you don't get a second round grade and Florida gets Clayton and Richard back on top of the guys you just mentioned, like this could be a team that could be really fun to watch next year.
Yep. This guy get a point guard.
Can you run the point?
I can shoot 3.
Listen,
I've shown that. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, Nick.
Zach's jumper is broken.
Oh, please.
Broken
please.
jumper.
Please.
Just a broken jumper.
That's
I've never had a jumper, though, so never had one.
Nick and the media boys and girls have walked up on plenty 3-pointers as we were going to the viewing period this spring. So don't let him tell you lies, folks.
Torre,
I was hitting from Walter Clayton range.
No, sir. Listen, we need to get that. Might be a Gators Online live show. Zach playing horse with Walter Clayton. That's a Florida Victorious NIL sponsorship deal waiting to happen, Zach.
I mean, it'd be a short show, but
yeah,
we can do it. I wouldn't embarrass myself. I'd hit some shots.
Okay. So I might have to make a call tonight and see if we can.
Hey,
if we can set that up.
You got a player. You got a player on this side. So we'll see.
We got a shooter. We got someone to shoot the video for us. We got a shooter in Zach.
Now we need the real one.
I like Walter Clayton's chances.
Well, Nick's going to jump, as he always does, into this series that the Gators have up next with Vanderbilt. And then some tough stretches coming up on the baseball front, sir.
Yeah, number 13, Vandy. We've had a time change. The game was supposed to be at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. They've got some weather coming in through Nashville. So the game will now be at 6 p.m., 5 p.m. local. And you can watch it on SEC Network, also streaming on Watch ESPN, SEC Network Plus. Florida will throw Brandon Neely at the doors, and it's a tough series. Florida's official pitching rotation is Neely, TBD, Jack Caglione. I expect Pierce Capallo to start again on Friday night, which would have been, the typical Saturday game 2. It's a tough series. Winning at Vanderbilt is tough. Vanderbilt's a top 15 team in the country right now. They'll throw Bryce Cunningham on Thursday night. He's 4-2 with a 4.75 ERA. And then Carter Holton, a really, really talented pitcher that if you're a baseball guy, you'll want to tune in on Friday night at 7 p.m. ESPN2 Friday night for Carter Holton and Pierce Capallo, 2 really talented guys. Vanderbilt's 27-10, 8-7 in the SEC, so they're not unbeatable, but they're not going to beat themselves, as I've said, before. Defensively, they're fielding at a 975 clip, so it's going to be a tough weekend series because of your getting swept and then losing a series at home, you're going to have to win to really compete. You're going to have to win a road series now. You're going to have to beat Vanderbilt on the road. That's way easier said than done. Then you have to go to Arkansas next weekend before getting Tennessee and Kentucky. As everyone and no one predicted, Kentucky is the number one team in the SEC right now, which is wild to say. So tough weekend, but I love Florida Vanderbilt baseball, two of the best programs since Tim Corbin and Kevin O'Sullivan took over took their respective jobs. Two of the best programs every single year in the country. There's a lot of respect on the diamond between these guys, but it does get chippy when Florida and Vanderbilt play on the baseball diamond. So I'm excited. Always look forward to this series, a little high quality Division I college baseball. Tune in tonight, Thursday, 6 p.m., Friday, 7 p.m. These are all Eastern time. Thursday, 6 p.m., Friday, 7 p.m., Saturday, 3 p.m.
Need the Gator boys to get hot. This is that time.
And real quick, I'm going to run through the names. We had some, you wrote the story for us, Zach, but we had some University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame inductees, and this is showing how old we're getting. I remember watching all of these players. Chaz Henry, punters are Hall of Famers too. He played football from 2007 to 2010. Scotty Wilbekin, men's basketball from 2011 through 14. Elizabeth Beisel, women's swimming from 2010 to 14. Marcin Cieslak, men's swimming from 2011 to 14. Francesca Anea and Hannah Rogers, softball. Francesca was on the team from 2007 to 10. And Hannah Rogers was, I think, a two-time national champion for Tim Walton's team. Genevieve Lacaze, women's track and field, 2008 to 12. And then Preston Tucker, 2009 through 2012. I think he made 3 trips to Omaha with Kevin O'Sullivan. And then honorary letter winner, the unmistakable Becky Burley, who I think started the women's soccer program at Florida.
She did. Yeah.
And a great Gator for sure. So congratulations to that group. Certainly an honor to be added into the University of Florida Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yep. Including Chaz Henry, former punter for the Gators. And in related news, this is Nick Del Torre's first year on the F Club committee. He approves that selection, folks. But man, Chaz Henry will always go down in Gator football history for not a punt,
Georgia,
but a kick.
Ty Grantham.
He pulled a Spurrier. Think about it, stepped out of his position to go kick a game-winning kick. Probably a little easier for him as a punter than a quarterback, but still pressure on him nonetheless, and he delivered in overtime. What a great game that was, and I think Florida fans always enjoy reminiscing on beating the Dogs. And a good way to end it on this week's episode. Appreciate everybody that tuned in and commented live. Appreciate everybody that followed along for our coverage throughout all of spring ball, all the practices, all of the coverage that we provided, all of the rapid reaction comments that we got. We got some great feedback on that, so appreciate you guys tuning in. We will keep you entertained this offseason. We promise. We'll have shows, we'll have guests, and try to get you along through portal season. So make sure you take advantage of that code UF1. Get 2 months at Gators Online for just $1. We'll be back next week to keep you updated with all the latest news from the transfer portal. For Nick Del Torre,